you so much. Hello, everyone. I wanted to start today by sharing part of my journey with you. My personal journey into plant-based world started about 10 years ago with Forks Over Knives documentary, an eye-opening discovery that began my exploration of the connection between diet, health, and longevity. This started my journey of personal transformation and discovery. Slowly and over time, an increasing number of plant-based products and dishes crept into my family's meal rotations. Personal merged with professional when I started on Silk in 2016, a leading plant-based beverage brand in the US. Just 3 weeks after I joined the Silk team, and following the launch of a new marketing campaign and a new packaging, a crisis hit. Silk sales crashed 20% versus prior year, a massive blow for those of you who know large food brands. All of this happened while Danone was in the middle of acquiring Silk and its parent company, White Wave Foods, as a way of getting into plant-based business. The team immediately refocused all energy to understand what drove the decline and initiated multiple recovery efforts. The months that followed were the best and fastest learning of my professional career. I had a chance to roll up my sleeves and dive into multiple brand turnaround efforts, including packaging redesign, flagship product reformulation, new brand positioning, new campaign, as well as entry into high growth, plan forward, plant-based beverage space. Over the past several years, I had an amazing experience learning from great mentors and leading major initiatives on Silk and So Delicious brands in the US. I've learned food marketing fundamentals, developed deep understanding of consumer needs and motivations, and launched novel products into new spaces within the plant-based world. This is where I found my purpose and my passion to drive broad-scale adoption of plant-based lifestyle by giving people delicious and accessible options. Working at a large food company provided tremendous resources to drive this mission. Companies like Danone play a very important part in driving the sustainable food revolution. They can use their scale and distribution networks to democratize the trends and bring plant-based foods to every grocery store in the country. However, these companies don't operate in a vacuum. Startup communities like the Protein Directory provide the initial catalyst that sets the trends in motion. Hundreds of startups are on a mission to change how we feed the world. Some will end up flowing into large food companies like Danone, while others will create entirely new categories on their own. You are the spark that sets the fire. Over the past several decades, I also dove deeper into climate science. And at first, I understood the issues, but the problem seemed distant and complex. I didn't feel like there was much I could do to make an impact other than putting solar panels on my roof and recycling religiously, but it didn't seem to make a dent. This was especially painful as new oil rigs were sprouting up within a couple miles of my house. As I read more and more about the climate crisis, the daily drumbeat of news felt overwhelming at times. But as the new information about the impact of food systems on climate started to come to light, food choices were no longer personal. They had broad implications beyond our plates. We know now that food production has altered our planet in more ways than any other human activity. It accounts for 24% of greenhouse gas emissions, 70% of freshwater usage, and it is perhaps the single greatest cause of biodiversity loss. Food production is also the cause of 80% of global habitat loss. It is all connected. Our planet, our ecosystems, and our personal health are tied together. We are all parts of the whole. I live in Denver, Colorado. In the summer, when the air filled with forest fire smoke, the crisis hit home. Watching my children play in the smoky air outside, the painful and palpable realization hit me. Here I am, top of the world, and nowhere to run. I can choose where my family lives, what we eat, and the friends we have, but I cannot protect them from the grim consequences of the breakdown in the global ecosystems. I cannot ensure the kind of future for them that was afforded for you and I. I realized I couldn't sit back. I had to do something about it. This is our generation's fight, and it is an urgent one. We can't leave this to our kids. In 10 to 15 years, it will simply be too late. It's on us to find a way out of this crisis for ourselves, for our children, and for the planet. So I decided to pick my corner and punch as hard as I could. My corner is food. If the way we feed the planet is one of the core issues, then it is also one of the biggest opportunities for change. We get to vote for the world we want 3 times per day with the food we choose. Over the past several months, puzzle pieces really started to come together. While plant-based sector has firmly established itself on our plates and in our business, it became clear that a new wave of sustainable food revolution was coming fast. Cell-based and fermentation-based technology is coming on the scene, and its potential to change the world is tremendous. I read mind-blowing reports from Rethink X and GFI outlining these new technologies and how they can allow us to pave a new way forward toward a sustainable future. It is predicted that we will see more change in the next 10 years than we have seen in the last 10,000. The authors of the Rethink X report predict that a US dairy and cattle industry will collapse by 2030 as microscopic protein factories disrupt the food system as we know it. We are at the cusp of the second domestication of plants and animals. According to Carney Edison Investment Research, by 2040, plant-based and cell-based meat will likely reach 60% of the overall meat market. This is how we bend the curve on climate and feed the growing world population. With these developments underway, a pandemic hit. Among the fear, anxiety, and loss, several new amazing trends have occurred. Consumers started to wake up to the vulnerability of our global food systems and dangers brought on by animal agriculture. A global wake-up call and a rise of collective consciousness drove skyrocketing sales of plant-based meats. A link between diet and health, as well as between diet and climate change, appeared even clearer. Now, over the third of consumers in the United States are seeking to eat fewer meat and dairy products, and sustainability is rising to the top as the main reason for doing so. Many more professionals around the world had the same moment of reckoning as I did and made a pledge to dedicate their time and talent to solving the climate crisis. Another silver lining of the pandemic is that it really opened our aperture on the digital communication. All of a sudden, the whole world was on Zoom, just a click away. I started meeting remarkable, inspiring people through LinkedIn. People on a mission, my people. A few weeks ago, I met Dave Buca, CEO of Change Foods. We immediately connected based on a shared mission to change how we feed the world. I jumped at the chance to build a new food company, the one led by purpose in everything we do, to build a new pillar of alternative proteins that can feed the world, using only a fraction of Earth's resources. I jumped at the chance to join all of you who are building this new food system, one that is thriving, sustainable, and kind. Today is my first day as Change Foods CMO, and I couldn't think of a more exciting journey, the exciting way to start this journey to be here with you. We do have many hurdles ahead and many puzzles to solve. We must develop these new technologies and create delicious, nutritious, and affordable food. We must find new ways to operate businesses to truly serve all the stakeholders and not just slave at the mercy of quarterly profits. We must create new business ecosystems and partner with suppliers and investors who share our mission. We must nurture and develop the next generation of talent to drive this business forward. We must educate, engage, and inspire the consumers who will usher the dawn of the food revolution. We have the tech, we have the passion, we have the skills. We are all here, so let's make it happen. To kick things off, I'd like to leave you with a provocation today. Being at an alternative dairy conference, I wanted to ask you, is it time we move away from being an alternative? Is it time we start thinking and acting like we are the main thing? As you just saw, plant-based, cell-based, and fermentation foods are poised to become the main source of protein in a not-so-distant future. So perhaps it's time for a new name. I thought I'd put a few out there to start and for you to think about. It's not meant to be an exhaustive list, but merely an invitation to begin this conversation. An invitation to define the new food system movement by what it stands for, beyond just being an alternative. We might not find all the answers today, but I would love to invite you to engage in a dialogue and debate as a larger community to shape the future, starting with the new name. I'd love to hear your thoughts and suggestions. I believe Giza is going to put this in a poll, and we would love to chat through this during this conference. Thank you and welcome to the Alt Dairy Conference 2020.